Well, good morning, everybody. Today we are continuing on 2-1 slope-intercept form, and in day 2, we're going to talk about, why is this useful, and are we ever going to use it in some parts of real-life situations, things like that. So before we start the lesson, let's review on how to graph slope-intercept form, or in this case, how do you find an equation of slope-intercept form when you're given 2 points, right? So there are no graphs here, but let's say I give you 2 points, and the 2 points are 2, 3 and 3, 5. And let's say if I were to connect it, right? Well, I only have these 2 points, so the best I could do is to draw a line here. But if I were to ask you to find a slope-intercept form of this line that is going through 2, 3 and 3, 5, well, let me first write down the slope-intercept form first, right? Which is y equals mx plus b. Well, to find a slope is very easy. All I have to do is count, starting from the bottom point, count how many units I have to go up, and then how many units I have to go to the right, right? In this case, I go up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1. So I notice that the slope, right? The slope, the direction, it's going up 2 to the right 1. And for the direction up, since the 2 is positive and it's going up, well, the numerator for the slope number would be 2. And then the denominator, since it's going to the right and the 1 is positive, then it's going to be positive 1. So the slope would be 2 over 1, which is just same as 2. So that means your slope-intercept form will be y equals 2x and then plus something. Well, to find out what is the y-intercept, I have to find out where is this line crosses the y-intercept. Well, I can't really tell because first of all, the line does not crosses the y-axis just by itself, like just by looking at this, unless we extend the line. But sometimes when we draw a straight line, we may cross the y-axis on the wrong numbers. I mean, sometimes when you draw kind of crooked, like look at me. Sometimes when I draw it crooked, it might end up at -2. Sometimes when I draw it a little bit less crooked, sometimes it might end at -1. And sometimes, when you draw like this, it might just end up here. So I have no idea where is the line crosses the y-axis. Well, to do that, we're going to have our table to help us out. So on the table, I put 2, 3 right here. So x is 2, y is 3. And then for the second order pair, when x is 3, y is 5. So I kind of translate these 2 order pairs into a table. Now I want you to look at the pattern between these 2 order pairs. Do you agree that every time the x goes up by 1, so if I were to add 1 here, the y value goes up by 2? Right? So remember, the y is up and down, the x is left and right. So it just tells you that every time you go up 2 like this, you're going to the right 1 unit. That's what the +2 and +1 stands for in the table. Now, this also shown that, the 2 and the 1 is same as these 2 and 1 in the fraction of the slope, right? So this 2 means going up 2, which is, the y value goes up by 2. And then the x is 1. Well, here the 1 to the right means the x is increasing by 1 every time in the table. So if I were to continue, well, I want to know where's the line crosses the y-axis, right? So maybe instead of +1 and +2, we could actually, instead of +1, I'm going to subtract 1 when I move to the left on the table. I'm going to subtract 2 and see what happens. So 2 minus 1 is 1, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So that means 1, 1 must be on the same line. So that means here is 1, 1, okay? So I'm going to keep going in that fashion. So I'm going to keep subtracting 1 and keep subtracting 2. So this would become 0, and 1 minus 2 would be -1. Well, 0, -1 is right here. So that kind of tells me that this line crosses the y-axis at -1 because it says it right here, right? When x is 0, y is -1. 0 comma -1, it is on the y-axis, which is right here. So that means for the equation, for the y-intercept, we're going to put -1 here. So that means your equation for this table and this graph will be y equals 2x minus 1. Okay, and we're going to need this today to do our work on our word problems for the day 2 of the 2-1 slope-intercept form. Well, in 2-1 applications in slope-intercept form day 2, we're going to revisit the same table. Remember these numbers from the review, 2, 3, and 3, 5, right? Now, we kind of talked about that the slope can be easily found by just finding the pattern in this table. So every time the x goes up by 1, the y goes up by 2. That means your slope would be, you flip these two numbers upside down, it becomes 2 over 1, which is just 2. Okay, it's very, very easy. Now, what is the meaning of the slope, right? The meaning of the slope, and I'm going to type it on the screen, it says for every increase in the x value, the y value increases by 2, or in this case, increases by the slope number. Okay, so that would be the interpretation of the slope. The meaning of the slope again is for every increase in the x value, whatever the x value is in the word problem, the y value, whatever y stands for in the word problem, increases by whatever the slope value is. Okay, now it might sound a little bit confusing right now, but when we get to the word problem, we're going to use this template to help us write what is the meaning of the slope value. Okay, now how do you find a y-intercept in this table? Well, remember from the review, we're going to I call it backtrack, right? So instead of going forward, we're going to go backwards. So we're going to backtrack until when x is approaching to 0. So we're going to, fill in the table. So 3, 2, 1, and 0, like this. So every time that x decreases by 1, the y decreases by 2. So that's why we get 3 minus 2 is positive 1. And we're going to continue this fashion. We're going to keep subtracting 1 from x, and then whenever we do that, we're going to subtract 2 from the y. So 1 minus -2 would be -1. So in this case, the y-intercept will equal to -1. Okay, -1. And what does this mean? What does the interpretation of the y-intercept means? It means that when the x value is 0, the y value is same as the number for your y-intercept. Let me repeat it again. So the meaning of the y-intercept means when whatever the x is 0, whatever the y value would be the same as the y-intercept. Again, it sounds a little bit confusing at first, but once we get to the word problem, everything will kind of make more sense because now we have some contents in each word problem. Okay, that's pretty much it for this lesson. Let's move on to our homework. Okay, on your homework today, we're going to work on homework 2-1 application and slope-intercept form day 2. And I'm zooming in on the worksheets right now, and I'm using like a tissue roll to kind of hold the paper. But let's take a look at how to do number 1 together. Number 1 says a vehicle is traveling with the given number of hours and distance. So in this table, it tells you that, well, a car, if it's driving for 4 hours, is traveling 8 miles. If it's traveling 6 hours, then it's traveling 12 miles, very, very slow vehicle. If it's traveling 8 hours, then it's been driven for 16 miles. And if it's traveling 10 hours, it's been driven for 20 miles. Well, on part A, when I ask you to find the value of the slope, well, remember, to find the value of the slope, all we have to do is to find a pattern in the table. So to do that, we're going to count, right? So it looks like every time the x goes up by 2, right, because it's keep adding 2 here, right, the y value goes up by 4 like this. So to find the slope, right, it's going to be 4 over 2. Remember, you flip these two upside down. So 4 over 2 means 2 over 1, which is just same as 2. That means the value of the slope for this table would be 2, okay? Now it says you have to tell me what is the meaning of this 2 in the context of this problem. So I have a little sentence frame with you here. So it says for every increase in the x, which stands for the number of hours, the y, which is the number of miles, increases by 2. So you have to kind of write me what is the units. Increases by 2 miles. Okay, so that's what you put for the answer. So to find the equation in slope-intercept form for this table, well, you have the slope. So it's going to be, let me first write the formula. Y equals mx plus b, right? Now you find what is the slope. The slope is 2, so it's y equals 2x plus. Now you don't know what's the y-intercept, but remember from the review, we learned how to backtrack this table to find a y-intercept. So instead of plus 2 and plus 4, we're going to minus 2 on the x and minus 4 on the y. That's why I give you some blank space here for you to fill in the table. So 4 minus 2 is 2. 8 minus 4 is 4. And we're going to keep going. So I'm going to keep subtracting 2 and subtracting 4. So 2 minus 2 is 0. And then 4 minus 4 is 0, right? So that means the y-intercept is 0, is this 0 right here. So it's 2x plus 0, right? Which you could write it as y equals 2x, right? So this will be the slope-intercept form to model this situation, okay? Now remember, you have to show work. When I say show work means you have to follow this format, right? So show work means I need to see you writing the pattern for the slope as well as you backtracking to find me the y-intercept, okay? So by showing this work, you're able to find the slope-intercept form as y equals 2x. Well, and then after that, it says explain the order pair 14, 28, which is not here, but if you extend the table, 14, 28 will appear in the table. And then ask you to explain what is 14, 28 in the context of the problem. Well, since 14 is the hours and 28 is the miles, it says the vehicle travels 28 miles in 14 hours. And that's how you do number 1. Well, the next problem I want to go over with you would be problem number 3, right? So that way we could get rid of some more difficult questions out of the way. So number 3 says a school has the following student data on the relationship between the number of hours used on surfing social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, other social media per day, and their test scores. So this table tells you that if you are spending 1 hour on social media per day, your test score on average is 90%. And if you spend 2 hours, right, if you spend more time on social media, your test score drops to 79.5%. And if you spend 3 hours, you almost fail. And if you spend 4 hours, you definitely fail, right? So to find the value of the slope, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find patterns. So 1 to 2 is plus 1. Now, what about from 90 to 79.5? So to find a pattern, we're going to subtract that. So to do that, I'm going to find my decimals calculator, and I'm going to press what is 90 minus 79.5, which is 10.5 right here, right? 10.5. So that means it's going to be minus 10.5. That means for every hour that you spend on social media, for each additional hour, your test score keep dropping by 10.5%. Okay, so that means the slope, it's going to be negative 10.5 over 1, which is just same as negative 10.5. That's the slope. Okay, well, what does it mean? What is the interpretations? Well, I think I just said it earlier. So for every increase in the number of hours on social media, okay, the test score, right, the y-values test scores decreases by 10.5%. Okay, so you have to write me the units. 10.5 what? 10.5 people, 10.5 hours. What is it? In this case, it's 10.5%. Okay, well, to find the equation in slope-intercept form, again, you're going to first write me y equals mx plus b. Well, you find the slope already, right? The slope is negative. So it's going to be y equals negative 10.5x. And then plus, well, I'm going to leave that up to you to find me what is the y-intercept. So it's your job to backtrack and tell me what is the y-intercept. So I'm going to leave that up to you, okay? And then for part D, it says explain the order 5 comma 48 in the context of the problem, okay? So to do that, remember 5 means the hours and 48 means the test scores. So you can say something like, if a person spend 5 hours on social media, then his or her test scores, you tell me what happened. Okay, so I'm gonna have you finish that. Okay, his or her test scores, what? Did it go up by, or is her test scores how many percent? So you're gonna use that number to complete that sentence, right? So what is her test scores when he or she spent 5 hours on social media by using this order pair, okay? So you're going to finish that. I'm not finished yet, so you're going to finish that, okay? So that's the first page of this homework. So let's move on to the second page. Well, on the second page, it's also very similar where they give you a word problem and they want you to find what is the slope and the y-intercept as well as the interpretations. So here they already, in this problem, they already give you the equation of slope-intercept form. And let's take a look at this problem real quick. It says Sandy's boat house rents canoes at a cost at $9 per hour for trips on the Red Cedar River. The owner actually gives customers a better deal. She uses the equation C equals 0.15t plus 2.5 for finding the charge C in dollars for renting a canoe in T minutes. Okay, so it kind of tells you the situation right here, and they want you to find what is the y-intercept and the slope in this equation. So to find the y-intercept, you look at this equation, which is the last number. You're going to say, now you're going to also write in a complete sentence. You're going to say the y-intercept is 2.5. What does the 2.5 means? It means that, well, let's see what is the C stands for. C means dollars, T means minutes. And remember, y-intercept means that when the independent variable is 0, the C would be your y-intercept. So you're going to say when a canoe is rented for 0 minutes, okay, the cost is $2.50. Okay. Now, of course, it sounds kind of weird when you say 0 minutes because nobody in real life, really say the word 0 minutes, right? So another way to write it is instead of writing 0 minutes, some people would say, well, that's the base charge, that's the starting cost, things like that. So you could have said the starting cost of renting a canoe is $2.50. Okay, that's what the y-intercept means. Now, this makes more sense in real life just because we do say the starting cost in real life. The starting cost, the base charge, the initial fee, the initiation fee, the starting fee, however you want to say it. So the starting cost of renting a canoe, doesn't matter how many hours you rent or how many minutes you rent, you're going to start at $2.50. You're going to pay $2.50 minimum no matter what. Okay? Now, for part B, it says they ask you to find a slope in this equation. Well, it's already right here. It's the number next to the letter. So you're going to say the slope is 0.15. Okay. Well, what does that 0.15 mean? So we're going to use the slope template. Remember, for every increase in the minute, the cost increases by this much. So you're going to say for every increase in minutes of renting a canoe, okay, the cost increases by 15 cents or by 0.15 of a dollar. So you do have to write me a complete sentence for the interpretations of both the y-intercept and the slope. If it's not a complete sentence, I cannot give you a point. Okay? And Sometimes you write increase if it's positive, if the slope is positive, and sometimes you write decrease if in case the slope is negative. So the increase decrease matters depending on the signs. Okay. Well, let's continue. It says, how much does it cost to rent a canoe for 25 minutes? Well, so we're going to use that equation on the top. So we first write C equals 0.15 T plus 2.5. And then since it says 25 is the minute, and I know that T is the minute, you're going to replace the T with 25. And then plus 2.5 like this, okay? And then from there, all you have to do is use your calculator to find out what is the answer once you put all that in the calculator. So you're gonna put, let me see, put 0.15 times 25 plus 2.5 will equal $6.25. So you're going to write $6.25, and you're going to write in a sentence, okay? So you're going to say it cost $6.25 to rent for 25 minutes. You can just write 25 minutes, okay? And then for part D, well, we're going to work backwards. What happens if you know the price, if you know the cost? Well, I want to find out how long did he use the canoe, how many minutes. So again, you first write down the equation. Okay. And then from there, since I know that the cost is $9.25, I'm going to replace this time the C with 9.25. Okay. And then you rewrite the equations on the right side. And then to solve this equation, you learned this already in topic 1, right? From a month ago, where you're going to subtract 2.5 on both sides. Like this. You cross it out. So you're left with, what's 9.25 minus 2.5? So you're going to use a calculator again. So 9.25 minus 2.5, you get 6.75. So $6.75 is equal to 0.15 T. And then at the end, you divide both sides by 0.15, right? 6.75 divided by 0.15. I typed it incorrectly. And I get 45 right here. So T equals 45. Now I'm kind of running out of space, but you're going to write me a sentence. It says, well, a customer used the canoe for 45 minutes if he pays $9.25. So you do have to write me a sentence, okay? Maybe I could write it here, right? So a customer rented for 45 minutes when paid $9.25. Okay, so that will be the answer for part D. Now I'm going to leave part E up to you because part E is the same thing. If a customer spends $6, how long can she use a canoe? So you're going to do the same thing. Replace the C with $6 and then find what is T equals to. Okay, and I bet you number 6 on this side of the worksheet is the same thing. If you notice, it matches. Part A is the same thing, part B is the same thing, part C is the same thing, part D is the same thing, and part E is the same thing. And that's pretty much your worksheets right there. There's not really any answer keys here, rather than only certain answers I'm going to show you. For example, like number 6, to make sure that your answer is correct, right? For the part C, at the end, I should see $6 here. Okay, somewhere on your answer you should have $6. For part D, you should have 50 minutes. And then for part E, you should have 80 minutes. Okay, and then that's pretty much it. Now, of course, you don't just write these answers as it is, otherwise I'll mark you off, right? You cannot write like this. You have to show work, write me a complete sentence, but these are the key numbers that you could use to check your answer. Okay, and then on the front page, there's not really any answers I need to show you, because you just need to find the slope-intercept form from the table by backtracking, by adding, subtracting, things like that. Okay, so you're going to complete these for me. Well, that's it for the lesson, and I will help you if you have any questions. Thank you.